Welcome to the AI Download. I'm Misela Dukley. I lead workplace strategy here at Charter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob Clementi, and I'm Charter's Senior AI and Work Reporter.
If you are new to Charter, we're a future of work media and research company, and we're very excited for today's episode for two major reasons. One, we've got Jeremy Kaplan here of Wonder Tools, and we're going to intro him in just a minute, but also two, because we've actually opened up this episode to the public. The AI Download is a monthly Charter Pro member exclusive series. And so every month, Jacob and I give you the inside scoop on what we're hearing through our reporting, share what's top of mind for us on all things AI, and really focus on making sure we can offer you very practical, tactical strategies for leveraging AI to improve productivity and decision making, both in your personal life and in your organization. We also host guests like Jeremy who are on the AI front line so that you can learn from them a lot faster, especially given the speed in which AI is evolving in our world today.
And if you want to equip yourself with the latest practices, research on how to be a better people leader, definitely check out Charter Pro. We will leave a promo code in the chat at the end of this episode.
Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in. Jacob will introduce Jeremy. Welcome, Jeremy.
Good to be here.
Great. Hi, Jeremy. Yeah, Jeremy Kaplan is the Director of Teaching and Learning at CUNY's Newmark Graduate School of Journalism. He is also a former Time magazine reporter, and he currently writes Wonder Tools, which is a great weekly newsletter spotlighting some of the most useful tools for creative productivity. We are not the only ones that read Wonder Tools. His newsletter currently has over 60,000 subscribers. Jeremy, thank you for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here. I love talking about AI. I'm exploring it all the time and happy to share. And I'm going to share a bunch of different tools that I find really useful and try to share why I find them useful, and happy to answer questions along the way. The first thing for me is, in any kind of meeting that we're all in lots of meetings. I assume most of us are in at least a handful of meetings every given day, if not we're in them every week at least. And so we want to record that and we want to transcribe that. And we also want to transform that, which is what AI really makes possible in new ways. And there are many different platforms that enable us to do that. But I just want to highlight a few that I think are particularly noteworthy in case they're useful for folks listening and watching. The first is Granola. So I'm sharing this little window where I can type in live notes while the meeting is going on, and I can share examples of what I'm listening to or hearing. And I can also just be confident that the transcription is coming through because I can actually get a peek at it as it's coming through the window. And then when the session's over, automatically, I get the full report, full summary, full email I could send to somebody just summarizing what happened, a message I can send directly into Slack. And one of the nice things about Granola that makes it different from some other tools is the fact that it runs without being in the meeting. So it's on the side, it's running on your own local laptop. So you can use this for an in-person meeting, obviously with permission from people. You can use it for an online meeting where it's not in the actual Zoom or Google Meet or wherever you're meeting. So that's really useful. And the quality is very good. The quality of the summary is very good. And you can use it for free to initially try it, or you can pay for a subscription. There are several other really good AI transcription tools that I would also highly recommend. I want to share just a couple of them really quickly. The next one is called Scribe. And so what Scribe does is just do transcription, but at a tremendously high level. So this is from 11 Labs, which many people may know as the kind of leading voice AI company in the world at the moment. And they have a new transcription tool just out last week. And you can actually use it for free through the early part of April. So you can get a sense of it. You can use it for whatever kind of transcription you want. It's super fast. It's super accurate. It recognizes any kind of speech modulations in any number of languages, and just highly recommended if super high quality transcription is really important to you.
Just to pause there for a second, Jeremy,
Yeah.
like Jeremy, how would you like compare or contrast the pros and cons of using Scribe versus Granola?
Yeah, so they each have their own little nuances. And I'm primarily seeing Scribe as a tool you use after the fact if you have recordings. So I'm going to record a meeting. I'm going to be at a conference recording something. I have a video that I've downloaded. I want to transcribe that. That's kind of use case. Whereas Granola, I would use in pretty much a live transcription scenario.
Okay.
And also a scenario where I want the built-in quick email I can just send to people saying, here's a summary of our meeting, quick message I can post to a Slack channel. All of those kinds of functionalities are built in with Granola. There are a couple of others that I recommend. Alice is another one. It's very secure. It's called Alice app. Their focus is on security and privacy. There have been questions in the past about some AI transcription companies and where things are stored and how secure they are. Alice is one that focuses on security of the transcription. Fathom is another one that I use particularly for video. So this was a video meeting, a video interview, and I can look at any of the questions that I asked. I can also get a time-coded summary. So anything that happened in the meeting, I can quickly jump back to the part where they mentioned the number of active users they have. And I can jump back to that part of the meeting. And it's a very efficient way of going back to a summary of a meeting or a live event that you're in, and it's very high quality as well. And so that's useful specifically for video if video is important. Supernormal is one other transcription tool. You don't need all of these. It depends on your focus. Supernormal is one I use where I want to maybe expand on some aspect of the meeting. So this was a meeting I was in, and maybe somebody said something here. Jose mentioned something here, but the summary only gives me a sentence. So I can click this and it's going to load more details. So it's kind of a customizable summary based on what you're actually interested in, which is really useful. I can also query the transcript with specific questions, and then I can also add more to it. So if I want there to be a section, I'm often talking about tools, right? So I can add a section where we're adding the key tools mentioned in this particular meeting, or the decisions that we were focused on, or the ideas that came up, and it will add to the summary. So it's kind of a nice combination of an automated summary, but also one that you can customize. So there are lots of flavors of transcription depending on what you need, but those are some that I really like. I also, by the way, just as another business tool, I find that like having a digital recorder is useful, because I don't always want the recordings to be on the computer, or I just have a situation where I'm not at my computer and I don't want to use my phone because it's a little awkward to just have the phone recording all the time if you're also using it for other things. So a digital recorder works really, really well, and then you can transcribe anything, almost instantly, right after the fact. So that's kind of transcription and getting the information in. And actually, another type of transcription that I use almost every day, I would say, or certainly very often, is a tool called Letterly. So this is for basically getting past the cold start problem. And some transcription is for meetings, like we've talked about, but I often end up wanting transcription for myself, so I can talk out my ideas because I'm stuck on something. I'm not sure what to write. I'm not sure what key points I want to get across in this meeting or presentation. And I don't want to just stare at a blank screen.
Right.
So what I do is I open up Letterly. I often use this on my phone, but I'll show you the web version just for the ease of use, or the software version. So this is my Letterly interface, and I am now recording. I'm transcribing, and then it's going to transform. It's 3 steps. First it records, then it transcribes, then it's going to transform what I'm actually recording. In this case, let's say I'm preparing a new report on climate resilience for my organization. And so I'm thinking about, okay, what are the key topics I need to address in this report, so I get my outline in place and I can start doing more research. I know I want to talk about the financial impacts on the financial system here in New York City. It's going to be a local report about the impacts of climate, the climate crisis. I'm going to think about the financial impacts. I'm going to think about the ways in which local government is addressing this or not addressing some of these issues. I know I want to think about the economic implications for local businesses. And I want to think about how climate-related issues are popping up in pop culture and in the arts in various different ways, and in writing and so forth. So I'm just kind of talking out loud, right? I'm just kind of thinking, and instead of trying to figure out and write and spend half an hour cranking away on the keyboard, I've spent about 60 seconds just laying out some ideas, right? I'm going to hit stop, and it's basically going to take 30 seconds or so, transcribe, make sure it's got my transcription, and then I can transform that. And here's the quick transcription. Now I can transform that. I'm going to actually ask it to kind of magically transform it, because I've used it enough. It kind of knows typically what I want. And so it's kind of giving me a good summary, right? This is pretty quick. It's a good summary. I said a lot of ums and ahs. I kind of went here and there a little bit, but this is basically what I was explaining, that there's 3 steps to this process. And then I went through with the example. And so in a matter of a couple minutes, when I'm going for a walk, if I'm stuck on something, I'll just pull out my recorder and think out loud. And I call this bionic dictation because it's more than just the traditional dictation. It's
Yeah.
enabling me to kind of get my thoughts out in a new and helpful way. So
That's definitely one that I would use because I like don't like writing out long emails to people. It's like annoying to like I know what I want to say. It takes me
absolutely.
forever to write it. So what I've been doing is I have like this transcription key on my keyboard that I've been using,
Mhm.
but the punctuation's off. It doesn't always get. It'd be nice to kind of have that transformation to condense it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's really useful in a lot of different use cases. And in this case, I was just looking for a summary. But let's
Mhm.
say you're preparing a slide deck, right? You can have
Yeah.
a custom prompt that says divide this into 10
Yeah.
slides with a title for each slide suggested, right? And you can also use it for a script. Let's say you're preparing a presentation, you want a script for that presentation, or you are preparing a draft of a email or blog post or whatever you're creating. You can I use it for journaling. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I'll just talk out loud and it will transform it into a little journal entry because I was not keeping up well on my journaling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really flexible, and you can use it on your keyboard, as you pointed out. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of different usages. It's not the only tool that does this. So there's another tool
Yeah.
called Oasis. That's good. There's one called Audio Pen. So it's not the only tool that does this, but it works very well, and I rely on it.
A question for you on this, though, Jeremy, and Kevin actually has the same question that I do. So I'm a verbal processor. I've come to learn that about myself, especially working here at Charter, where I work with journalists. And so I'm always trying to make sure that I'm like getting the right thing out of my brain. And so I've been lately actually using ChatGPT a lot to kind of like say, talk to it, say what I need to say, and then kind of work from, the summaries, like, is this clear? Am I really getting to the point? And so I'm curious, and Kevin wants to know as well, why would you use Laterally, Oasis, something like that, instead of just talking to ChatGPT?
Yeah. So they're different kind of interfaces that specialize in different things. You can customize the prompts in a way that kind of work well in the app format. It's only doing that one thing. ChatGPT is going to, you can use advanced voice mode, right, on ChatGPT to
Hmm.
have a kind of conversation.
Right.
But that's
Yeah.
really, to me, that's useful when you want to do a role play. For example,
Yeah.
I can open up ChatGPT advanced voice mode and ask it to play an aggressive interviewer, right, who's asking really tough questions, right? So that's a good tactic, by the way, for people
Yeah.
preparing for difficult conversations is use advanced voice mode and give it a role to play, like the tough interviewer or the, difficult, employee who you have to give a difficult, feedback to or whatever. But those are typically conversational. It's not really intended for just like you just recording, right? It's going to interrupt you. And so it's not really ideal for that particular use case. This is designed really well for this particular use case. You can create your own custom prompts. It has a lot of built-in prompts that are really effective. It
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a single purpose device that works really well for this. Some
Yeah.
people are Swiss Army knife people and they want to use one
Yeah.
thing for everything. And so if you want to use ChatGPT, you can kind of make it work for a lot of different use cases. I tend to be the kind of person who likes to use a special pan for,
Yeah.
making certain foods and a different pot for a different, and so each tool I use, I like that it works really well for that particular purpose.
Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
will say one thing, Jerry, like when I've brainstormed with ChatGPT voice, like I'm on a walk and I'm like working out some piece that I'm writing, I'll talk to it back and forth. And it's
Yeah.
good for that when I'm trying to go back and forth with it. But sometimes I've tried to do what you just described, which is just, I just want to brain dump on this thing. Just let me
Yeah.
say everything I'm thinking, and it just keeps interrupting me. And I'll
Yes.
say, don't talk until I say talk. And it says, okay. And then it does it anyway. So I
Yeah.
definitely, I feel what you're saying there about
Yeah.
using ChatGPT for this.
Yeah.
One other voice one that works really well for kind of quick dialogue, since we're on this point about voice, is Perplexity. Perplexity has a really good voice mode that I think is underappreciated. And tell me about Wicked and what it had to do with the original Wizard of Oz from Frank Baum. What's the connection there? It's
Wicked
fast.
is a Broadway musical that serves as a prequel to L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It tells the story of Elphaba, the
Okay.
Wicked Witch of the
So
West.
um, basically what I'm trying to demonstrate there is the fact that you can use it to answer quick questions that you might have Googled in the past,
Yeah.
but it gives you it in a voice context. It's reliable. It gives you the citation. It's fast. It's concise, and it doesn't dump you, 50 links to figure it out yourself. So
Right.
it's very good for those kind of quick question scenarios when you're just trying to get a sense of something and you don't necessarily want to type it out or you want to have a dialogue where you follow up with questions. So that's an underappreciated part of Perplexity, which if
Yeah.
people don't know Perplexity, that is the #1 AI search tool in my view, because it gives you citations, it gives you a summary and a briefing basically on any topic you're trying to get up to speed for. So it's a highly recommended AI search tool, and it also has a deep search capability actually. So maybe I'll pull it up and just illustrate this.
And
So
Jeremy, while
yeah,
you're doing that, a quick
yeah,
question just as we sort of ease off of transcription.
sure.
Justin's asking, how do you connect the notes on your voice recorder to the apps that you're showing us right now?
Yeah, so this voice recorder has a neat little trick, which is that it has a little magic USB. Anyone who remembers the old flip
Yeah,
camera, that's like going back away. There was a flip camera that had the same kind of feature. So basically,
yeah,
this has a USB and it just plugs into the laptop. And then in like
beautiful.
30 seconds, you've got it uploaded to the transcription service and it's done. It's very fast, very easy. There are new devices that are AI recorders. There's one called Plaud, Plaud, where you can kind of like have the AI built into the physical recorder.
Mm,
You're using their service, you're subscribing to their AI, blah, 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 blah. I'd rather trust the reliability of like a Sony hardware and then use whatever AI services I want.
absolutely. Makes a
So
lot of sense.
can you see the Perplexity on the screen now?
We
Yeah, we
can.
can.
So yeah, so I'm going to use Perplexity Pro, and I can basically punch in any kind of little quick search. Here, I'm asking about climate resilience, right? The topic we've been talking about. I used a little shortcut, right, on my keyboard. I use Text Blaze to do a quick text expansion. So a little keyboard to expand the search quickly. And it's walking me through the search process, right? So it's telling me that it's researching the term, the history of the term climate resilience. It's exploring the implications of the concept, and it's doing all of these steps and giving me some transparency into its process. And then at about 30 seconds to 1 minute, I'm going to get a detailed briefing. And for me, pretty much any topic that we encounter in the business world or professional world of any kind, there are new things coming at us, right? New topics, new issues that are rising in a business, new organizations, new people, new entities. And we don't always have deep expertise on all of them instantly. But with Perplexity or other tools like it, we can basically get up to speed really quickly. It's like having a presidential brief, and you can then follow up on it. So one nice thing about this is it'll give you suggested questions to pursue the thread further to deepen your understanding in a direction that's relevant for you. So here we've got the quick summary about what climate resilience is and the history of that term, the definition and implications it has. And you'll notice there are citations, right? I can click over to any of these and actually open up the source, the citation source. And I won't click over to show you what it's pulling up, but it's pulling up a scientific kind of analysis of climate resilience and common applications, notable examples in New York City, because that was part of the query I asked it to explore into. It's giving me very specific but very brief examples that I can click onto the citation to find out more. The evolution since Hurricane Sandy, since that's something I asked about. Takeaways for journalists, since I mentioned I'm a professional journalist and that's my context.
Mm-hmm.
And now here are the follow-up questions. So what are some notable examples of climate resilience in New York City? So now it's going to go down that part of the thread. I can share this with anyone else. I can ask it to redo it if I didn't get good results. I can copy it and put it into a Google Doc or somewhere else. And I can also edit the query if I didn't get the result that I want to. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And I can go to the original sources, most importantly, right? Because we
Yeah.
want to make sure these aren't hallucinating, they're not anything that's not factual and that I can dig in deeper myself. So Perplexity is super, super useful for that purpose. You can go back and see your prior threads, but you can also create spaces, which is like a folder. So, with Google searches, they're often one-off and you kind of are
Yeah.
collecting searches willy-nilly in some other document or something. Here, you can have a space where you collect these different threads as you're learning and exploring a topic, which is super, super helpful. You can also get images and video here. And you can even ask it to put stuff in a table format. So if you're looking at different companies or doing competitor research, you can actually have it do put that into a table format and then export that and use it in whatever way you want.
Jeremy, I'm curious because you're a journalist and obviously you've mentioned the sources, the fact that it links to sources a lot. How do these like search tools fit into your workflow? like which types of searches do you think like you can just read it to get the high level understanding versus you have to kind of dig into each of the original sources to see if it was accurate or not?
It really depends a lot on the topic. So I'm just illustrating now deep research. So deep research is sort of the newest level of AI research, which you can do on Perplexity, also on Gemini, which is Google's AI engine, as well as on ChatGPT Pro. So deep research is basically like a much deeper um, set of research that you get as a result, which is the equivalent of several days of a PhD kind of level person diving deeply into a topic. And that's not just my assessment. Ethan Mollick has written about this on his One Useful Thing newsletter. And it's the assessment of various academics who've looked at this. Like it's really like high level, high quality research in many cases that people have looked at least. But your question is really about how you know which source to dive into, to follow up on, and so forth.
Yep.
I think it really varies by topic, and it depends a lot on the use case. Like in many cases, I'm just trying to get up to speed and understand. Okay, this is sort of the gist of climate resiliency. Now I'm going to go and interview people. Now I'm going to go and read a book on the topic. So to
Right.
me, it's kind of like the entry point, and I will look at the list of sources and typically I'll recognize one source. Like I'll say, oh yeah, this is the Economist analysis. I know the Economist does good analysis reports. I'm going to go dig into that one. Whereas this one is like easymoney.com. And I'm like, I'm not sure about that one. I'll save that, and that is a point of criticism. So I don't want to make it sound as if these tools are perfect or have no flaws or limitations. They certainly do. And one of the limitations is that the sources it's not always evident or transparent as to how it's prioritizing the sources, right? Typically, in my experience with Perplexity, many of the sources it relies on are high quality sources. But in some cases, I will actually add into my prompt, use only government sources or use high level, high quality sources from these particular outlets in particular, because you want to give it some guidance, because otherwise the algorithm may steer it towards sources that have strong SEO, but may not be the most reliable from a journalistic point of view or from a business point of view.
Right.
Yeah. So Jeremy, a quick question before we get a little bit further, and I think this is really important with any of these tools from a workplace perspective. So Lori asks specifically for transcription tools, but I think this could, again, extend to other tools. How do you recommend using them when your company has walls that prevent you from using outside tools?
Yeah, it's a great question, a challenging one. And there's no easy answer because each company does their security differently and so forth. First of all, on the question of security and privacy, with Perplexity is pretty good on this. You can be in incognito mode. You can be not signed in, and you can even use it in your incognito browser where you're not signed in and still get results. So it gives you a lot of flexible gradations, and you can make sure they're not training on your data and storing your data, et cetera. Sometimes you can use a secondary device. Sometimes you can make a strong case to your internal team that this is really valuable and here's why it's valuable and this is saving me an hour. When it comes to research, like I really do think it's a huge amount of time savings. People doing manual research on Google, looking at one website at a time, compiling these old research reports are spending many, many hours. And in some cases, right, we know about satisficing versus optimizing. Some cases we want to optimize that. We need high quality human research for sure in some cases, right? But when it comes to just kind of a briefing that you're just tangentially going to talk about a topic at a meeting that's not crucial to your day-to-day work, that is the kind of thing where I'd rather not spend the hour, waste the hour on that. And I think people internally in companies need to start making that case as much as they can. Yeah, beyond that, it's tough. It's if rules are in place that are limiting certain tools, it's hard to circumvent that. There are technical ways of circumventing that with VPNs and stuff like that, but I don't know if that's what this person is aiming to do.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, thinking about like the use case and how do people actually advocate for what it is that they're trying to accomplish rather than it just being the big danger. It's like saying like an ocean, we won't go there versus like, oh, there's a beach. Oh, there's relaxation. Like people need to be very clear on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, workplaces at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to share another example, or I guess I can just mention another example. So
Yeah.
with deep research, I was interested in AI journalism programs that are around the world for sort of training journalists around the world in AI. And so I used ChatGPT deep research for that. And it gave me essentially the equivalent of, I guess I can show it. I can show it. It gave me a 50-page report. So this is a 50-page report on a comprehensive analysis on global AI training programs for journalists, right? And you can fit in your industry, right? And how industry X or Y is using AI in creative ways around the world. And I pasted it into a Google Doc just to illustrate how it might be used in a workflow in an organization. But you can also just use it within ChatGPT, and you see this as a table, right? The table looks a little better in the original version, but it's giving me a table of the program provider, the program type, the region, the format, duration, it's basically giving me an exhaustive research report about all of these programs and the details about them. It has a full set of links and resources that I can follow up myself. And it's literally 50 pages. It's not an exaggeration or an estimation. It's exactly 50 pages, as it turned out. And this is an authoritative, exhaustive research tool for me as someone running programs that I spent a few minutes creating a detailed prompt about, and now I can save the days and days I would have spent looking for this information. Now I can spend thinking about the information, applying the information, right? Acting on the information. So to me, this deep research element of AI is hugely valuable. And again, it's available in Perplexity. That's only going to be about a 7-page report, though, just to give you a sense of the scale. ChatGPT's deep research is 50 pages. Gemini is somewhere in between the Gemini deep research. And these are just version 1, right? So this is like the worst it's ever going to be. So if those who are kind of not aware of this, like dive in, just give it a prompt about something you're working on to do some deep research. If you use the Perplexity deep research, it's using the DeepSeek model, but it's situating the kind of storage in the US server. So that's just a little nuance for people who are wondering about that. Yeah, there's so much more. I don't know if we have time for another.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see another one. And when we were getting ready to start the Zoom, you mentioned that you've been playing around with the new GPT-4o image generator. I'd love to see show us maybe an example of that.
Yeah. So several things I've been doing that I could never do before AI. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about AI and such an enthusiast for it, because it just has given me these powers to do things that I could never do and always wanted to do, right? One of those is illustrations and cartoons and photo illustrations, graphic illustrations, infographics, right? So let me see if I can quickly pull up a couple of examples. I've been playing with this for my next issue is coming out soon. And it's basically about using AI for image generation with this next generation of models, which are just incredible. ChatGPT.
Maybe you can explain a little bit like what the difference is like between this and using like because I think a lot of people who are using ChatGPT would ask for an image and they'd get like the Dolly image back. Like what's the difference between that and what we're doing here?
Yeah, so here's an example. So I ask it to help me think through a cartoon. I wanted a meta cartoon about a cartoonist using ChatGPT to come up with a cartoon, right? So I recognize it may be a little bit small to see, but I'll sort of walk you through what we're looking at. This is a multi-panel cartoon with a lot of text in it that was generated by ChatGPT 4o. Then I asked it to generate in the style of a graphic novel paneling instead of just a cartoon, a comic strip cartoon. Then I asked it for the same thing in the style of a webtoon. So this is doing multiple things. It's doing a complicated image with multiple parts in it. It's doing detailed text inside of an image accurately. It's doing consistent images from one to another. These are all things that prior models couldn't easily do. It's intelligently understanding the thread of the conversation I had about this meta idea of cartoonists using ChatGPT. And it's integrating that idea from the chat into the image. So it's not just a single prompt understanding, it's kind of understanding the concept. So, and that's just one example of one kind of image. You can do a logo design. Here's a prompt for a flow chart, right? This is a multi-part flow chart that I'm creating just from a prompt. A conceptual portrait that I was thinking about, kind of marketing design that I was asking it to explore. So many different, I gave it a prior image of a book group. Let me show you that example. This is actually a graphic that I created based on another graphic I uploaded. So you can give it an existing graphic and say, I want something like that. So this is a book group that I was invited to, and I said, I wonder if I could create my own version of that for a book group that I host. So I created my own version of it, adapting it, but customizing the text for the book group that I facilitate. So it's just an unlimited number virtually of different kinds of examples. The last one, let's see if I can give you one other. This is an example of a little cartoon I was generating. I also had asked it to do an illustration of the Titanic movie poster in the style of Studio Ghibli, which I'm going to include in my newsletter posts, the results of that. So really unbelievable things that it can do. It can do a huge number of things in one, one simple prompt. Ideogram, by the way, is another alternative. If people don't know Ideogram, they just launched 3.0 yesterday, and that's another one to look at. I'll be writing about those in the post. So image generation is proceeding remarkably. AI video editing is another one I've written about recently. Eddy.ai. You upload the raw video and you just use a text prompt and say, I want a 5-minute highlight reel. And that's called Eddy AI. That's at the forefront of using text prompting with video. So a lot of innovation. Coding, we didn't get to show today, but coding is another thing. I've been able to create these little mini applications just with text prompt. And that was something I could never do before as well. So just to illustrate
we're at the end of our time, but can you talk briefly about the coding tools? Because that was like one of the posts that I read of yours I thought was really interesting and useful.
Yeah. There's just this amazing capacity that these tools have to essentially understand what you're looking for and then to create the code for it. So previously you had to know how to talk to the computer in code. Now you just basically say, here's what I want, and it gives you the code, right? It's just really, really incredible. So here's an example of a little artifact I made with Claude. So Claude is like ChatGPT, it just takes your natural language, but it can also code. So I gave it the information about people participating in this program, and now it created a dashboard for me. So this could be a financial dashboard. I created one for the New York Times financial reports as well. I can look at the financial data in a dashboard format, moving things around, looking at different charts, just by uploading the financials, right? The end of year reports for any given company. Another one, so this is with Claude, right? There's another tool called Windsurf Cascade, which is a coding editor for professional coders. But I was using it just as an amateur without knowing anything about code in order to create little games and interactives. So I'm strengthening my pitch as a violinist, practicing perfect pitch. And so this allows me to investigate. Oops, that was wrong. So I can, basically test my, my pitch. This one lets me test my rhythm understanding, right? So those who've played an instrument, what speed of metronome marking is that? I think it's about 110. It was actually 132. So these are little applications. You can use them in more serious kind of work contexts to allow you to put in some data and then query that data in little applications. And you literally just describe what you're looking for. Yeah. And then it'll ask you some questions. You describe further what you're looking for. And so you can kind of make these micro applications. You can design websites this way, design mock-ups for websites to give to your web designer and say, I want something like this for this project.
Yeah. I just want to double click really powerful. Yeah. Jeremy, you have no experience coding. Is that right?
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all. And I learned along the way. Like you learn along the way. It'll ask you questions. It'll say, how do you want this part to work? It walked me through setting up the GitHub instance that I needed in order for those to be public, kind of web pages. But once I had done that, it was, once I'd followed its instructions, basically, it was good to go. So, and if anyone's interested in that, that particular Beatmaster, the one with the rhythm, there's the link to that. So, just
thanks, Jeremy.
Tremendous amount of fun to play with, and also quite serious too, right? The data analysis part of it can be quite powerful as a serious work instrument for analyzing any kinds of data that you have.
Wow. This is so exciting and so impressive. And Jeremy, one more quick question before we go, because I think it's a really important one. Claire asks, in the ChatGPT image creator, did you actually tell it to use a white man or a white male in the cartoon, or was that the default?
Great question. There's a lot of discussion about this. Ethan Mollick's book, Co-Intelligence, gets into this issue of bias in the training of the models and research into the training of the models. Hugging Face has some great tools about sort of investigating bias in imagery generated by AI models. So this is an important topic. The answer is I did not specify any kind of race or gender for those, right? And my experience has been that they're a little bit random. So sometimes you'll get different kinds of people and different kinds of gender and different kinds of age and different kinds of all that, right? Sometimes it'll be influenced by a picture you upload, right? So if you upload a picture and say, base something on this, or create a cartoon like this, or create a cartoon version of this, that will sometimes influence it. The industry is very concerned about this, as it was from what I see, right? So there's a lot of research and work being done to assess where the models appear to demonstrate a bias. And I suspect that'll be a process that's ongoing, right? Just like it is in so many of our other areas of media. So I don't know if that's a full answer to that question, but hopefully that's a couple of helpful thoughts.
Yeah, it's just super helpful to know. I think we're all navigating how Jacob and I were actually just talking about this morning. Like people will say, like, how do I stop the bias? I'm like, well, it's kind of like in real life. Like you have to be aware that it's happening in the first place, and then really think about our individual tools that sort of live within our own language and context. You're asking questions, you're asking it, like even in your depiction, like it was a man. Okay, can you depict this as a woman? Like there are so many things that we have to layer into this. And I think this is where the human in the loop really comes into play.
I think it's a great point, and we do have agency, right? So anytime you get the results, you can say like, actually, I'd like this person to be different in this way, right? Like you can, and the cool thing about the 4.0 image generation now is that it will keep, it'll base the next thing on the existing thing. In the prior versions of Midjourney and other AI image generation models, they had trouble it would basically start over each time.
Yeah.
Now it really remembers. So you could say, turn this into a person of this background or this race or this gender or whatever. And you can also specify that, by the way. If you look at this is a little detail in the OpenAI announcement yesterday or a couple of days ago when they announced this publicly. There's a video and they have the people at the company trying different things. One of the things they specify in one of them is the person actually specifies that he wants an Asian person to be depicted. And he actually puts that into the prompt. And so you can certainly, proactively take the agency to say, this is what I'm actually looking for, as opposed to just relying on the model to decide whatever its algorithm wants to make this person. And that would be a tip I would offer to people is, take the agency exactly as you put it, as the human in the loop to, to steer the ship, right? Don't just let the ship steer you. Yeah.
And to your point, Jeremy, the image learning from whatever you entered previously, this is why we encourage people to use these tools. Jacob and I have been talking about this, and you'll probably hear more from us about this. There's so much hesitation, and we understand, and we typically see it with women, which we know the adoption rates for AI are much lower than with men and, other minority groups. But I think what's important is like, if we sit on the sidelines and say this thing is bad and we don't contribute to it, then it doesn't learn. So for every person who's saying, I would like to see an Asian person, or I'd like to see a woman of color, or I'd like to see whatever, the point is that we are helping this technology learn and we're combating the bias that exists. Like it's trained on our world and our world is biased. And so we combat it by showing up and bringing hopefully some non-bias to it. But this was awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for your time, for your generosity, the knowledge, insights. This has been so amazing. And thank you so much to everyone here who is joining us or anybody who is rewatching this recording. I'm sure that you picked up some great tips and ideas, tools that you can add to your AI toolbox. I know for me, I'm really excited to use Letterly. It just feels like it's going to be very good for my brain. And excited to just try out creating some images and see like what that looks like. But if you want to continue learning about all things AI and the future of work, you can learn more at charterpro.com this month, and also hearing more from the AI download every month. March 40 will give you 40% off of your membership. But also, you want to make sure that you're checking more of what Jeremy has to offer at Wonder Tools. So we've entered that into the chat a few times, but I'm going to put it here one more time for you. And as Jeremy said, he's got newsletters coming out weekly, and he's already mentioned just the work that he's doing on this image generator from ChatGPT. So check it out, make sure you subscribe and learn more. But thank you, Jeremy, again. And thank you, everyone. We will see you next month.
Thanks. Jeremy. And always looking for more collaborators too. So if anyone wants to collaborate with me on something or work together or hear more about this, please do reach out. Jeremy@jeremykaplan.com.
Amazing. And maybe we'll have to bring you back for part 2. We'll find the right fit, bring a bit more people. People are really excited about this. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeremy. Bye-bye.